What if you had instant analytics on your PDP images and a faster way to create content that performs better? That's what we're diving into in today's episode, how top brands and retailers are using analytics and automation to stay ahead across retail media and the digital shelf. It's Rapid helps teams scale smarter. They analyze image performance, they help you create optimized assets for retail media networks and the digital shelf, and they integrate directly with PIM and DAM systems for seamless execution. Brands like Pepsi, Mondelez, and Instacart use its Rapid to go beyond basic tools to uncover gaps in PDP and retail media performance by analyzing the images themselves, not just the count. Streamline banner creation across hundreds of formats for Amazon Ads, Walmart Connect, and other retail and social platforms, and launch high-performing content more than 80% faster across e-commerce and marketing channels. If you're buried in manual work or struggling to keep up, this episode and It's Rapid will show you a better way. Visit itsrapid.ai to learn more.
Welcome to Beyond the Shelf with Dave Feinlieb. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. We publish new episodes every Tuesday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Dave Feinlieb.
Welcome back to Beyond the Shelf. Today we're joined by Scott Benedict, a seasoned retail merchant and omni-channel strategist with more than 35 years of experience spanning brick and mortar, e-commerce, and international retailing. He's worked at major retailers, including helping to launch Walmart's online business, and now leverages that experience to help brands and retailers navigate the rapidly changing commerce landscape. In this episode, we'll explore how Scott thinks about the evolution of consumer behavior, the integration of digital and physical retail, and the creative opportunities that emerge when brands rethink their content, media, and shopper experience. Scott, welcome to the show.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today.
Well, excited to have you here. Take us back. How'd you get your start in the space?
So it's interesting that I'd been in retailing already for a few years and I was working for a catalog retailer that a lot of folks of a certain age might know called Service Merchandise. When e-commerce first started to become a thing, and I was a buyer in consumer electronics, and consumer electronics was one of the first categories that became popular online, and I was just really hoping to get involved in it. And Service Merchandise had a presence, but it was a very small presence. And one day a recruiter reached out for Walmart's fledgling e-commerce business, which at the time was called Walmart Online, which grew up to become Walmart.com.
Right.
And that was the opportunity to kind of cross over between physical and digital. And really throughout my career, I've been back and forth a couple times between physical and digital retail, and just felt like that was where the consumer was ultimately heading. And it only took about 25 years, but that finally worked out to be the case. So I was only 25 years early on that whole thing, but it finally come to pass.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. And did it seem like a risk at a time working on online?
Well, it's interesting that each time I went back and forth between physical and digital, my colleagues in both places thought I had lost my mind, either going to digital or going back to physical when digital was obviously taking off. And I said, well, ultimately, I don't think this is going to become a decision. I think people who understand both sides of the business will become more valuable in our industry and will be more well-rounded. And that turned out to be the case. But at the time, yes, they thought I had lost my mind, and they may or may not have been right, but it did work out okay. And I'm thankful for that kind of cross pollination, if you will, of experiences between both sides of the retail, which are now becoming more fully integrated.
100%. Now, you've worked at or with and at Walmart and Sam's Club, What's one lesson from that experience that you still apply today?
Well, there's a lot. I will tell you that the culture of the company kind of changes how you approach business generally, not just retailing, how you lead people and that sort of thing. But what is probably maybe one of the biggest takeaways from the total of 18 years that I spent there is this being part of something bigger than yourself and this sense of responsibility to go beyond just delivering good results, which you always want to do in any company and any role that you're in, but also kind of having the responsibility for not only representing your own brand as an individual, but also representing the brand of your employer and of your company, whether that's to suppliers, whether it's to potential employees or associates, as we call them, or to third parties, that you always want to conduct yourself and your business in a way that is you're kind of shouldering the responsibility for conducting yourself the right way, doing, even if you have to give someone bad news. And as a buyer, I had to tell people all the time that I was dropping their item or wasn't going to carry their item. And if you explain the why, as to why you made that decision, even if they didn't like it or agree with it, they could at least understand it. So I think those are some of the big takeaways coming from just the culture that I worked in that company that stick with you throughout your career.
Great insights, great rules of the road right there. Tell us what you're up to now. What are you focusing on work wise, client wise, and so on?
Absolutely. So I have my own consulting business called Benedict Enterprises, and I'm also a part of a larger group with the Rethink Retail team has an advisory business called, surprisingly, Rethink Advisory. So between those two entities, working with a lot of both consumer brands and retailers, not only here in the U.S., but in other parts of the world, on how they transform their business to meet the moment, to meet how retailing is evolving, how consumers are evolving. And I'm particularly focused, because I'm a merchant by training, in how merchandising organizations, including the buying function, the inventory planning function, managing store assortments versus online assortments, how those things are evolving and going from being run as two separate silos and two separate entities, kind of bringing those together. In addition, I also have my own podcast, just like you do, called The Digital Front Door. You see that back there. And I've been working with some nonprofits on development for small and upstart brands, helping them either come to the U.S. and position themselves to sell to large retailers, or taking startups here in the U.S. and in particular here in Northwest Arkansas, and helping them get set on understanding how to be successful selling into large retailers from the perspective of a former buyer.
And great to have that knowledge, I imagine, when you go in to meet the buyers.
Indeed, it is, because I prefer that I give them the tough love and the challenge back before the current buyer does, because I have a good inkling of the things that they're going to challenge or that they're going to ask. It's much better, and it makes them more confident when they go sit in front of a buyer. Say, "Well, I've been through it with Scott, and
Right.
he asked me all the tough questions, including some that never got asked by the current buyer." But
Yeah.
really having them ready to understand why their business is special, why their product is unique, and why it is that they feel like they've earned a spot on the both on a physical shelf and on a digital shelf as well.
You talked a little about moving back and forth between digital and physical. Will you share more about that? What are you seeing brands do today?
Well, it's interesting that in the early days of e-commerce, if either a brand or a retailer gave thought to how it is the physical store assortments versus the online assortments were created, the physical store assortments, obviously, that process had been around for years and years, or decades, depending on how old the company was. And their approach to the online assortment was, well, we'll make that an extension of what we have in stores. And what I'm starting to see now is what I call digital first approach, which is, because we don't have the physical limitations of a physical store or physical shelf, online, starting building this broader assortment online that totally represents either your brand as a consumer brand or your brand as a retailer, and then using not only the insights that come from that, but trying out new items, trying out new brands, trying out new suppliers, in some cases, trying out new categories online, and using that as a knowledge base that then you take in what appears in your stores is a cut down that is relevant to the size of the store, the demographics of a local market, and things that have either been accepted nationally or have been accepted in a particular region,
Yeah.
to where you've gained that knowledge from online. So the store being a cut down of the online assortment instead of the online assortment being an expansion of what is the store. Now, plenty of retailers don't yet do it that way or see the benefit of doing that, but it feels like that is the trend that a lot of more successful retailers are taking, is that digital first approach.
Yeah. Love it. I think we found the title of the pod right there. The digital first approach.
Yeah.
Great one. Tell us also about when we go to the digital experience, we see you have the merchandising, but we also have retail media now
Yeah.
that's very much a part of that experience. How are you seeing retailers and brands kind of balance those two things?
Well, it's interesting because so much of retail media obviously began as a digital tactic, whether that was paid search terms or paid display ads either on the site or off-site that led to the retailer's website. And all those things are going to continue to be a factor, obviously, going forward. But I'm seeing now the emergence of, okay, how do we connect online media within store media? And then ultimately, I think there's a plug-in with digital signage to where, based on your preferences, your interests, what the retailer knows about you, signage that directs you to a particular product, either that you search for while you were right there in the store, or that you buy on a regular basis, say in a grocery scenario, and hey, this item you liked is in stock, or it's back here on aisle A3, and then you get there, and the electronic shelf label lights up to point that item out to you. That integration between traditional retail media, and it feels weird to say traditional and retail media in the same sentence, but the,
Right.
the, the thing we kind of grew up with to now, the integration of in-store components with online components to really message to a consumer. And the wonderful thing about retail media is that you have a qualified consumer who, for whatever reason, is looking either for your product or a product like yours, and you have an opportunity to market to them in a way that can be measured far more easily and significantly than we ever have before. It just feels like there's so much opportunity. As big as retail media has become, as much as it has contributed to the P&L of a lot of retailers,
Yeah.
I think we're still in the early days of that, and particularly where you integrate physical and digital elements of it to a total go-to-market strategy.
This episode of Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Mondelez, Instacart, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai.
I want to switch gears and talk a little about AI. No podcast episode is
Yeah,
complete
that hardly ever comes up, David.
without
I'm shocked that
yeah,
you asked
right.
that.
Right. And we've seen some pretty interesting announcements lately with Amazon and Walmart announcing in different forms
Yeah.
some partnerships with OpenAI. Tell us what you're seeing there.
Well, it's interesting because both before and since those recent announcements, one of the things I've really felt very proud of as a former associate in the company, that Walmart's approach has been, how can we use technology to empower our people to be better at their job and make the shopping experience easier for the consumer. And that stands in very interesting contrast to Amazon and others' approach, which is how can we use AI to get rid of people? And it doesn't mean I don't have a Pollyannish view that technology won't ever cause someone a job to be replaced or that sort of thing. But I think when your first impetus is how does this make our people better and faster and serve a customer better and make the shopping experience for the customer better versus how can I get rid of people? I think that's one of the first things that kind of jumps out. I think the other thing is that there's still a lot of retailers of some size that are still figuring out all the different ways that AI can improve both back office elements of their business that maybe a consumer never sees, that maybe aren't as sexy or as exciting, as well as very customer facing elements, how search improves, how the quality of item page content improves, and how brands can enhance and optimize their content across all their retail partners to reflect what the customer is seeing and saying about their product, and how it pulls in social media insights to refine the content even better. I think those are all the things that jump out at us right now and say, well, leaders are taking different approaches and using technology different ways. And before there is probably what would be appropriate, uh, guardrails around how technology is used, there's a lot of retailers that are stepping up and trying to show leadership in the way that they use it, focused on the customer and focused on the ethical use of that technology to improve the business and improve things for the customer. And it's wonderful to see that, but it is still a little bit of a wild, wild west in terms of how things are evolving, and are evolving very, very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The speed of innovation in the space just is incredible. Tell us a little about. We did talk about sort of the back office. On the front office, you touched on it, but I'd love to hear more about it, like item pages, creative. What are you seeing there? What's the latest and greatest?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is content optimization has been a thing for a number of years where you want to make sure that your descriptions were not necessarily written in marketing speak, and that's not a slight to marketers. They're wonderful people, but it's really how do you speak in the customer's language, not in your language as a brand, and what are some of the key terms and ways in which a consumer is looking for information about a product that AI helps automate and refine that process. And I've worked for agencies before where optimization was always said to be not a one and done type thing, that you always, if an item stayed in the assortment for some period of time, you wanted to keep looking at ways to improve keywords that appeared in the copy or the title. You always want to look at, can we improve the different images and the different views of an item, and are our product attributes reflective of how you legitimately describe all those things. So all those things have been big in the world of more traditional search and finding a great product. Where I think AI will start to impact that is, yes, it'll make it easier and faster to continue to optimize that. And the only thing that's concerning is if the retailer optimizes copy rather than the brand, then they become responsible for whatever is said on that item page, instead of rightfully the brand should be responsible for what is said about that product because they made it and they're on the hook for whether a consumer likes it or not. But what's interesting, I grew up in the consumer electronics industry, and one of the things we always felt very strongly about was this concept of solution selling. In other words, not just selling a consumer an item, but what is it they're trying to do, and can we sell them a whole combination of both items and potentially services, installation of a flat panel TV up on the wall like this one is, or
Right,
installing
right.
a home network back when that involved Cat5 wiring instead of a router. But how can you bundle services and a complete solution? And it feels like AI is going to enable that kind of a shopping experience where instead of just searching for an item, it's I'm having a birthday party for 12-year-olds this weekend and I want it to be themed around football. and what are all the items I should get, and are there recipes and that sort of thing. So I feel like AI is going to become an enabler of solution selling on a whole nother scale than it was ever possible with a human recommending items, but being able to take a group of items potentially bundled with services or that sort of thing and really change the shopping experience for the better for a very busy consumer who doesn't want to take a lot of time and really just needs the help and will look to either a mobile device or desktop computer as their source of solving a problem, not just finding an item, right?
Yeah, yeah. Solution selling. I love it. It's a great insight. And what a great insight to think about that in the context of AI and the kind of changing shopping experience there.
Indeed. Indeed.
Well, that's the perfect spot for us to talk about 2026. We're just getting started with the new year.
Yeah.
What should brands and retailers be thinking about that maybe they aren't already thinking about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that is a recurring theme that I see is that how do you make appropriate investments in technology that not only drive top line now, but set up foundational capabilities for you in the future. And I'll give you a
Mm.
couple of examples. I'm amazed in my work as a consultant the number of very respected retailers, both here in the US and in other markets, that still retain customer information for stores and customer information online in separate data silos. And I don't know how you can pull together really and unlock the full value of personalization or loyalty programs if your data resides in silos. So, some of the very foundational investments in bringing your customer data all together to where it can be used for personalization, I think, is one. And then, as I mentioned, the very unsexy back office things. How can I do a better job of flowing my inventory, of forecasting my inventory needs, of planning my personnel hours in a store using this and become better at the blocking and tackling fundamentals through the use of technology and make sure that I've invested in foundational elements that then I can build upon as we move forward. But it's someone in the software space taught me about you don't start building a house with the roof. You start
Yeah,
you start with the
yeah,
foundation,
yeah,
and
right.
the foundation's got to be right for you to build everything else about it. And that's the way I've been taught by people way smarter than me to think about technology investments broadly and certainly in retailing is that are your foundational elements solid upon which you can build? Because if they're not, if you're still have one inventory and fulfillment planning platform for stores and a different one for online, I'm going to recommend prayer because I'm not
Yeah.
sure I'm not sure you're ready for the omni-channel future, and the fact that consumers want to be able to see where they want to get that item from you and whether it's most convenient to go in their local store, have it delivered from the store, have you ship it to them, and if all those systems don't talk to each other,
Yeah.
right? So I think those kind of technology investments is where a lot of both retailers and consumer brands are getting a lot of pressure to how do I use this wonderful technology that is becoming more and more mainstream to make the fundamentals of my business solid and then set me up for even more exciting things as we go down the road.
Scott, we've covered a lot of great ground, all the way from digital as the entry point to Omni to getting the foundation right. So, all good insights there. I'd love to do our rapid rundown now, which is just a few fast paced questions, your quick thoughts. First off, your favorite retail moment, physical or digital, that you've experienced recently.
uh, So I would say this: I bought an item online for local delivery, and one of the items was out of stock, and the retailer then had it delivered from another store without me even asking. They just did it. And that's a wonderful use of technology to make that customer experience for me better. And that just, I was so proud to see that as a retail person, to see that a retailer had said, we're going to just solve that. It would have been easy for them to just cancel that one item and say it's out of stock. No, they found a way to get it to me. They probably lost on that delivery, but they kept me as a customer. So,
Yeah, I love it. Well, we talked about retailers. Tell us about brands, a brand that you think is nailing content and commerce right now.
oh boy, that's a tough one because the definition of good keeps the bar keeps kind of moving higher and higher every day. I think there's two companies that really stand out to me. Walmart, obviously, here in the U.S., and Carrefour in Europe are two of the brands that have really embraced this concept of digital first and using technology to benefit the customer, make the business more efficient, more effective. So I think those two brands are the two that really stand out to me.
An underrated element of in-store or online shopper experience.
Well, I kind of mentioned it earlier, this concept of solution selling, but I'll get more specific. One of the things I've noticed about food retailing is it is very focused on item selling, and I've seen a few retailers, HEB in Texas is one of those that put recipes on their site. And then if you, as you search those recipes for certain occasions, all you have to do is click one button and every ingredient from that recipe is put into your shopping cart and you can check out immediately. And then you have the choice of, is it going to be delivered? Am I going to do a store pickup order? But taking this concept of solution selling, applying it to grocery, applying it to an occasion, I think that's one of the neater examples at HEB that I've seen.
After a long week in retail strategy, how do you like to unwind?
Well, my favorite football team is the Denver Broncos, and they're having a good season this year so far. And so watching them and seeing them and do a lot better than they have in recent years has been a lot of fun. It's stressful in those close games, but when they win, it's wonderful. So I kind of enjoy that.
Absolutely. What's the best way for our listeners to reach you?
I have a website, benedictenterprisesllc.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. And if you go to the Doing Business in Bentonville website, you'll see not only my podcast, but a lot of other podcasts. And obviously, there's a lot of great retail podcasts, including yours. I'm so excited to be on it. But there's a lot of ways to get a hold of me through all of those different touch points. So.
Perfect. We'll drop those in the show notes. Scott, thanks so much for joining me on Beyond the Shelf. It was great chatting with you, and I hope you'll come back.
All right. Thank you so much, David.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Shelf. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow. And feel free to share us with your colleagues so they too can hear weekly perspectives from the brightest minds in e-commerce. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, where we post clips from each episode, share Dave's takes on breaking industry news, and much more. Beyond the Shelf is a production of It's Rapid. Our host is Dave Feinlieb, and our producers are Sean Levy-Ashvili and Jake Musiker. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.